Take a look around you right now. I'm willing to bet you can spot a piece of paper somewhere nearby. A book, a notepad, maybe even just a receipt you forgot about. We're so used to it, we don't even think about it. But here's the thing. That simple material, it's literally one of the most revolutionary inventions in all of human history.
Yeah, every single one of those things, the notebook, the book, that receipt, they all go back to this one brilliant idea that completely changed everything. So you have to ask, right? How did this humble little sheet of paper become, well, the foundation for pretty much all modern communication and knowledge?
So let's break it down. What is paper, really? Well, at its core, it's a beautifully simple idea. You just take some plant fibers, process them, and you get this thin material. But from that one simple concept, a whole world of possibilities opens up. Writing, printing, art, packaging, you name it. It is just an incredibly versatile thing.
And really, it's almost impossible to overstate its impact. Let's dive into why this thing we see every day is actually a marvel of human ingenuity. I mean, think about what it was like before paper. If you wanted to write something down, your options were not great. You're talking heavy stone, clunky wood, or super expensive parchment. It was a huge pain and pretty much only for the rich and powerful. And then paper comes along and changes everything. Suddenly, knowledge is portable, it's affordable, it's accessible. You could almost call it the original information superhighway, right? It let ideas just zip around the globe faster than ever.
So where did this game changer even come from? Well, its story isn't tied to just one place. It's more like a journey, an idea that got passed along from one culture to another over hundreds of years.
You can really think of it like a global relay race of innovation. The baton starts in ancient China, where papermaking was this closely guarded secret. Then it's passed to the Islamic world, and there, scholars and artisans take it and they just perfect the process. And finally, the baton reaches Europe, and bam, it helps kick off the Renaissance and the scientific revolution. It's just a perfect example of how great ideas can spread and get better as they move across cultures.
And what's wild is that the basic process really hasn't changed all that much for centuries. It's basically this four-step dance. First, you get your raw materials, the plant fibers. Then you mash them up into this watery pulp. Step 3, you press that pulp into a really thin sheet. And finally, you just dry it out. That's it. Simple, elegant, and apparently effective enough to completely change the world.
Okay, so once paper became cheap and easy to get, its impact was just explosive. Let's look at a few of the ways it totally reshaped society. All of a sudden, paper was just everywhere. It became the go-to medium for pretty much every part of life. It completely redefined how we learn, how we govern, and even how we create art.
Just think about this for a second. Before paper, a single handwritten book could cost as much as a house. No joke. Paper made books, and by extension knowledge, affordable for pretty much everyone. And things we take for granted, like the simple notebook or the exam sheet, those things help standardize education and create the school systems we all know today.
And it didn't stop there. Paper basically invented the idea of a shared public conversation. I mean, newspapers, magazines, they let people share news and opinions and stories on a massive scale. This helped create national identities and, gave birth to modern journalism as we know it.
And this revolution wasn't just about intellect and news. It was also about creativity. Paper totally democratized art. It gave artists a cheap, versatile canvas for their sketches, their watercolors, their designs. It basically unlocked the creativity of millions of people who could never have dreamed of affording a traditional canvas or expensive parchment.
But like with a lot of great inventions, the story of paper isn't all sunshine and roses. Its incredible success came with a pretty big price tag, and that's left us with a much more complicated legacy to deal with.
So yeah, paper has always been a bit of a trade-off. On the one hand, it's awesome, right? It's cheap, it's versatile, it's super useful. But on the other hand, it's also really fragile. A little water, a little fire, and poof, it's gone. And maybe more importantly, making all that paper leaves a huge environmental footprint. And that footprint, that's really the heart of the problem today. Our massive global appetite for paper has meant that entire forests have been cleared. Not to mention the process of making it uses up tons of water and energy, and that contributes to pollution.
But the story doesn't just end on that down note. We figured out a really powerful way to deal with this legacy: recycling. It's simple, really. By reusing the paper fibers, we don't have to cut down as many new trees, we save a bunch of energy, and we cut down on the pollution from the paper mills. It's a really critical new chapter in paper's long story.
So, that brings us to today. In our world full of screens and pixels, you might think paper's story is finally over, right? Well, you might be surprised.
I mean, even with all our digital tech, paper hasn't gone anywhere, not even close. We still count on it for all kinds of things, official documents, pretty much all our packaging, creative projects, and let's be honest, for that simple, satisfying feeling of holding a real book or scribbling a note. It has turned out to be an incredibly resilient piece of tech.
And maybe that's because paper is so much more than just a product. It's a symbol. As one source we looked at puts it, paper remains an essential element in human life, a symbol of science, knowledge, and communication. It kind of represents our deep human need to connect with each other and to understand the world.
So as our technology keeps racing forward, paper's role is definitely going to keep changing. There's no doubt about that. It's carried our entire history, and it has totally shaped our present. So the only real question left is, what story are we going to write on its next page?